everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to start on the final push to get this thing all done so we can take it in and get safety inspected. And there's just a bunch of little detail-y stuff that really have nothing to do with that I want to get done anyway, but we're going to kind of wrap it all up into one. Job one is to tidy up. Good heavens, what a mess. First thing we're going to do is work on the fuel system. Our carburetor, you can see there it leaks. It's a Holley model 1920. This is the original carburetor off my 71 Valiant. It's been sitting in the attic for years, and I just stuck it on here to see if it would work better than what was on it. But it works okay, but like you can see, it leaks. This is the one that was on it. It's a Holley model 1945. This is actually the right carburetor for a 76 Dodge truck with a slant 6 engine. So even though nothing else is right on this truck, I'd be happy if we could use this carburetor. But it did have some issues. It ran like it just ran not so great. And the accelerator pump was lazy or completely dead. So what we're going to do, we're going to open the thing up and see what we see in there. And hopefully none of the gaskets rip. Well, it looks pretty clean. When you turn any carburetor upside down to drain it, always do it over a pan because the check valve for your accelerator pump is going to be in there somewhere. Now, not really much to do in here. We'll just make sure it's good and clean. I'll give it a little blowout. We're going to flip it over and make sure the screws that hold the base plate on are good and tight. And I could see here one problem. Remember I said I didn't like the way the accelerator pump worked? Well, there's part of our problem, that little spring there. We'll get that fixed up. There should be a washer on that, I believe. Anyway, one little thing at a time. But it does have all your usual Holley stuff. You can see down in there. That's a Holley main jet, so you can actually jet this thing. It's got here there's a little power valve. So hopefully we'll be able to get this thing fixed up. So here's what I found. It didn't need a washer. The spring, it's hard to see here, but it has a very, very slight taper to it. And it was on upside down, so that the tapered part of the spring was going up in there. There's kind of a little bit of a counterbore there in the housing, which is actually the seat for the spring. And that's what lets your accelerator pump work. So it's all fixed up now. That's good. And I also found that the floats were a tiny bit low. Not a lot, but a tiny bit. So I think we're going to put this thing back together now and see how it works. Okay, let's see how she runs with the Holley 1945 on it. I shot some gas down into the fuel bowl. We'll see what happens. It'll take it a second. This carburetor has got a lot more bowl capacity than the 1920. It holds a lot more fuel, but we'll let it warm up for a sec. Oh, there we go. It seems to run pretty good. It's still kind of dead off. See if we can see if it's... Yeah, I can see the accelerator pump shooting. Might just be because it's cold. And the float will be a little bit off because we've got the front of it up in the air on the ramps, you know. But seems okay. That's good. So for now, we're going to give that carburetor the benefit of the doubt. it seemed to work pretty well. Like the choke work, everything, it was good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to change out this fuel filter. This is the, one in, one out, just a metal can fuel filter that we're all familiar with. What we're going to do is we're going to change this out to a return fuel filter. We're going to be replacing it with this little guy that you can see it's got a return fitting. So what that does, it's hard to see, but all the way down at the bottom of that nipple that's welded on there, there's a tiny, tiny little restriction. So that just gives a path for any vapor. So if this fuel starts boiling in this line, it gives a path for the boiling vapor to get back to the tank and let the fuel continue to flow up to the carburetor. It's basically to fight vapor lock is all it does. The restriction is small enough that it lets the vapor out but doesn't really affect the fuel pressure at all. So this here is the proper fuel pump outlet line for a slant 6 in a pickup truck. We got off a wreck. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and put this on, and we're going to have to bend up. We're going to have to bend up a new upper line and see what we have to do about getting everything connected down at the pump. And I've got, it's drying right now. I cleaned up and painted. I actually got the right little bracket that goes on the cylinder head to hold the line. Oh, this is going to be very factory looking stuff here. That's a lot better. So we've got a nice copy of what is supposed to be there for a brake line in the original bracket and everything. That looks really, really good. The last thing I will do is, once I'm sure that carburetor is going to stay on it, I'll shorten up this PCV hose so it's got a little bit more of a straight run without this hook in it here. And of course, we ran the vacuum advance line up. I'm not quite sure the routing of that. It probably originally had some little metal clips to attach it to that. But because of mix and match here, I can't really say for sure that there was ever an engine that had the late style over the top fuel line with a vacuum advance. By the time they'd come up with this, they were probably all lean burn. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's there. It looks good. So now we could stick the air cleaner back on. We've got a new air filter to put in it. And we'll carry on to our next little task. Next things we're going to do are down here on the side of the bell housing. This spring here, this is not the proper clutch return spring. So we are going to replace it. We bought what we think is the right one. We're going to try it and see what happens. And then this thing here, you'll remember from before, we didn't have the right bracket here because we found out the one for the stick shift was different than the one from the automatic. The stick shift one is proving difficult to find. So we just got our hands on another automatic one, and we're going to make one out of it. Cutting and welding, our favorite thing. We got our fork spring in. I'm not sure I like that. That looks like it's kind of stretched a little far. But anyway, it's there for now. So now what we've done, we've got our slant 6 automatic bracket up there, and I've made a little piece here that can weld to it to extend it. It's hard to see now. There's a good view of it. So what I have to do now is get a piece of chalk and mark across it so I get the relationship of these two. I don't want to weld it in there. And then we'll take it out, jig it up, and I'll weld it outside of the truck. So there's our first little piece put on. The next step is we're going to fill in this corner. So this kind of is going to come down there like that. And then we have to put a tab on the top here because the top bolt hole is like here. So we'll get that sorted out. All right, that's looking like something now. So now we're going to go test fit it, and then we'll see about getting a piece tacked on for the upper hole. Okay, so here's the piece for the upper hole sectioned in. I'm going to get that welded up. Then we'll go underneath the truck, make sure that it fits. Then I'll final weld everything, and we'll dress everything down and clean it up, and it should be good to go. There it is. I just got to make sure one last time it fits, then I can paint it and put it on. The upper hole in the end, I had to slot it out because I screwed up my measuring a little bit. It's hard under there. I wish I'd have realized this. It would have been so much easier to do it with the transmission out. I've got an old slant 6 block in the barn over there. I could have kind of mocked everything up. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll make sure it fits, and then I'll give it a coat of paint and put it on for keeps. Or until I find the right one. Come on, focus. There we go. All right. It fits perfectly. So now I'm going to pull it down, paint it. And while the paint's drying, we'll look for a couple more bolts. I had them at one time. They're probably in one of my boxes. All right, there we are. Our bracket is installed. I get the bolts all tightened up. That's good. Maybe one day we'll find the right one. But until then, I don't think we'll have any trouble with this one. Now I'm going to service it up. I've already changed the oil filter. Now I'm going to crawl underneath, pull the plug out of the pan, get the oil out of it. We'll put some fresh stuff in it. It's been sitting around idling, and it just hasn't really done much of anything for about 3 years now. So the oil's probably all full of gas, and it's just gross. It's been in there too long. So we'll put some fresh stuff in, and we're going to give it a grease job and just kind of go over everything, make sure all the lights and everything work. And then I got a couple of little things to do on the inside of it too. And while the oil drains, we'll get out the old grease gun and give her a good grease job. New oil's going in. We're using this stuff. I have a whole bunch of it. I got to use it up in something. Yes, it's probably a little heavy for this, but you know, it won't care. I only use it in the summer mostly anyway. Do a light check. That all looks good. We'll check the back. Perfect. And we know the windshield wipers and the washers work because we just screwed around with them. I had the horn going. Heat, defrost, all that stuff works. But we'll check it anyway. Low speed. High speed. So right now it's coming out the floor. We'll switch it to defrost. Should come out the top. Yeah. Not much to these old heaters. Horn. Good. Good. Perfect. Backup lights. Well, the one on the dash works. There you go. Good. I went around, double checked the torque on the lug nuts. That's good. Double checked the air pressure in the tires. That's good. So we're gaining on it. I got a couple more things to do, but I'm probably going to have to make a trip to the boneyard before we get this finished up. But that's okay. We like going to the boneyard. I didn't like how taut the clutch fork return spring was. The actual proper one for the truck is no longer available. So first we tried an A-body one because the bell housing looked kind of like an A-body slant bell housing, but no, the spring was just too taut. So now we've got a B-body spring on here, and it's just right. So I'll have to write that down somewhere. It's a B-body spring that this thing takes. Now what I got to do, you remember in the previous video we updated the brakes to the 2-bolt booster so we could use the aluminum master cylinder. Well, our brand new booster that we got is no good. It's like the diaphragm sticks or something. When you go to apply the brakes, it goes pop, and then the brakes work normal for 2 or 3 applications. And then if you let it sit for a spell, if you're driving down the road and you don't use the brakes for a few minutes, when you go to use them again, pop. So that's no good. Man, the land of almost fits strikes again. So here's how we're going to solve that problem. This is a proper assembly line Mopar one off a wreck. we're going to pop this one in and see how it works. Alrighty, there's that. All done. That went together like a good thing. Perfect. Looks good too. And then down there, it's hard to see, but underneath the oil filter, the oil pressure switch was leaking. It's pretty common. They leak here around where they're crimped together over time. So we pulled that out and put a brand new one in. Hopefully that solves that problem. Now it's time to get it back down on the floor, and I guess I can go ahead and make an appointment to get the safety inspection done on it. Well, so that's it. She's ready to go. I just took it out for a little spin, and everything seems hunky-wunky. We'll get it down there, get the inspection done. Hopefully that'll all go well. And in the next video, it'll be on the road, and we'll be finding more stuff to do with it. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll come back and see what we're up to next time on the Claremont Classic Garage. And until then, I'm Kevin saying so long for now.